For such a long time, we hadn't heard from you. It almost felt like you'd been lost to time. But then we were given hope of your return, glimpses of your presence, and soon enough, you returned to us.
Hey friends, I'm Pragmatik and I like to talk about video games. And today I want to talk about a game that is very special, as it is none other than Dragon Quest XI. I have waited so long for this game to come out, and it's probably easily my game of the year. Now, while I can't give a full overview of it because it's 60 plus hours and I just haven't had time to finish it, I do want to go over some key elements, changes, and just general greatness about this game. So let's get into it!
Dragon Quest XI had been in development for quite some time. We hadn't had a numbered installment since the Wii, and we didn't even get that one in the States, so that means that Dragon Quest IX on the DS was the last numbered game we had received. I was so excited to hear that the US was getting Dragon Quest XI, and honestly, it's easily my game of the year. No, get out of here, Spider-Man. Get out of here. I'll play later. Get. If you've never played a Dragon Quest game, here are a few quick notes for you just in case you're looking to get started. Do you have to play the other Dragon Quest games to play this one? Not at all. Each Dragon Quest game is usually its own story. 1 to 3 were kind of timeline connected, but it didn't really matter where you started. Is this game like Final Fantasy? Well, the early versions, yes, but whereas Final Fantasy has deviated from its origins, Dragon Quest kind of keeps close to its format. I also see Dragon Quest as being a bit harder. It's more of a grind, saving can only be done in churches and now the goddess shrines throughout the world, and revive items are more scarce in this game, so be ready for more of a challenge. Now with that out of the way, let's touch briefly on the story. Our hero this time around seems to have been separated at birth due to a mysterious mark on his hand, causing him and his family to be hunted down. He's later found by an old man and raised until he entered the current day. Our hero and his friend are entering their rite of passage into adulthood by scaling this mountain to reach the summit. You could say this acts like part of a tutorial level, you know, if the game actually told you what to do. The developers probably assumed you played an RPG before.
Holy damn it, Christmas!
You can assess a few things from this part of the game. Enemies aren't hidden and appear on screen, so fighting them is mostly up to you. I much prefer this system, as with how brutal Dragon Quest can get, it's nice to know that you can make it back to town if things get dire. While the battle system is mostly the same, you can move around in this one, which is kind of awesome. I don't know if it actually helps you avoid any attacks or anything, but it certainly looks cool. I actually didn't know you could move until about 3 fights in. Pardon me, just gonna dress up in Dragon Quest VIII clothes real quick. Reaching the top, you're soon under attack by a monster that almost claims your life. It's only by the intervention of the mark on your hand that saves both of you. But hey, you're adults now.
We're back safe and sound, Grandad.
Indeed you are, my dear. Thank the spirits for that. When we saw lightning striking up there, we got a little worried, I have to tell you.
It's only until after explaining the events to your mom later that day do you find out that your grandfather knew that there was more to you than meets the eye. That the symbol on your hand meant something. That your destiny lays beyond your simple town of cobblestone. And that's all I'm telling you, because the stories in Dragon Quest are some of the best. They are usually small gripping events that lead into the main storyline, and I've always liked that format. Like each little area traveled to is a mini story in itself, and Dragon Quest is so good at making for emotional moments that you really need to experience it for yourself.
Goodbye, old friend.
After you leave Cobblestone, you're pretty much on your own, and it really is so much fun traveling. So much so that it becomes more the journey and not the destination.
While not exactly an open world game, there is a lot to explore in between towns. I think this is one of the game's biggest strengths because it never feels monotonous. There are a variety of enemies to face, and if you don't feel like fighting, then call your horse and plow right through them. The game is heavily dependent on crafting items, but it's not as easy as just finding this and that all over the place. Rather, chest and sparkling spots kind of have to be sought out. The sparse rewards throughout the overworld makes for a more satisfying experience. Having these spots all over the place would just make it feel repetitive. While the game mostly stays traditional to its roots, they did make a few changes, like adding a grid system to give your characters perks and abilities stacking onto the spells they already learn. Taking enough hits causes you to get pepped up, which is basically hitting high tension like in Dragon Quest 8 or 9. I like this a little better as it just happens while you're taking hits rather than trying to build it up yourself. Plus you can perform group attacks when multiple people are pepped up, which is awesome.
Ha! Easy!
I feel like the developers took the idea of travel from 8 and really cranked it up. 8 was impressive at the time, seeing you travel across huge parts of land, but beyond that, there wasn't much to keep it entertaining. I feel like the team felt the same way and really tried to keep it to where going from here to there really felt like an adventure from start to finish. And I just want to throw this out here, I always really enjoy the voice acting in Dragon Quest games. Each character has their own unique voice and it really helps to give them their own layer of individuality.
I spend ages digging this hole and you just happen to show up the day I finish it? Heck of a coincidence. Guess I really was meant to help you out, just like the seer said.
Dragon Quest has always carried a bit of difficulty with it, but this one feels a little bit easier, but not enough to make it too easy.
Revival items are still few and far between, and a resurrection spell isn't learned until later in the game, but this time around you have little statues you can save at in the overworld, rather than having to go to a town and find a church to save and resurrect your fallen pals. The leveling in this game feels a bit lighter too. I feel like I level up faster this time around, which isn't unwelcome. I haven't found myself short on funds either when getting new weapons and armor, but as I acquire more characters I'm sure that will change. This is almost completely invalid, however, if you're playing the Draconic quest. No shopping, no armor, different settings you can set to make the game that much more harder. Look it up, it's a nightmare. And speaking of characters, Dragon Quest never fails to make some interesting ones. Each one usually feels so unique and has a deep sense of development, the character designs are overall really pretty, and the alternate costumes for them are a nice bonus.
The name's Eric, by the way.
And it goes without saying that this game is absolutely gorgeous. With a refreshing color palette and a nicely textured characters, you can't go wrong. I mean, like, look at the varying textures on each part of their clothing. You can't hate the level of detail. Going from 8 and 9 to this, it's simply mind-blowing. Plus you gotta love the Akira Toriyama design style.
Playing for as long as I haven't really found anything I dislike about the game, save for a few minor annoyances here or there.
One thing I have to point out, and I'm sure this was to the dismay of other big fans, was the decision to make the soundtrack for this game all in a MIDI format. The music isn't unpleasant by any means, but one thing to always look forward to in a Dragon Quest game is the orchestrated soundtrack that follows. The original Dragon Quest VIII was orchestrated, and I think that was a big part of its charm. Taking this away from Dragon Quest XI feels like a crime, and a huge missed opportunity. Further driven by the fact that they did orchestrate a lot of the music in the game and gave it as a collector's edition bonus. So why not put it in the game? Hopefully they'll make a patch to have this orchestrated option in the future. It's just a necessary aspect in my opinion. But everything else has been well worth the wait. This edition is near perfect to me, with a gripping battle system, wonderful visuals to complement the story, and even little sound effects they add from the original game make for a pleasant treat. I would have waited a whole nother year if I knew this is what we'd be getting, as the quality and polish put into this game is just deserving of my place as Game of the Year. As always, thanks for watching. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. Enjoying Dragon Quest XI so far, or did Spider-Man nab your wallet? Let me know in the comments what you think, and feel free to subscribe and like this video. Maybe even share it, yeah? As always, have a great day, and keep it practical.